Today I'm going to be demonstrating my method of how I go about raising sheet metal into a hollow form. This method is basically a two-step operation. The first step is to create folds in the metal that roughly define the shape that you're after. And the second step is to hammer out those folds. By hammering out the folds on the sides, you're going to be upsetting all of that metal into the sides of the form, therefore making it thicker and stronger. So unlike sinking, which is taking the sheet metal and stretching it into the shape that you want, this piece is actually being compressed and made thicker. So as you can imagine, this is a very time-consuming and laborious process, and not too many people do it anymore, but it does have its place, and there are certain shapes that really can't be done any other way. So if it's done right, the only piece that will be the original thickness will be the part of the shape that has not been touched. Everything else should be thicker. I'm starting off by hammering in some very large, widely spaced folds. I'm not going to be able to hammer out all those folds, but the purpose of this is to get the sides at the angle that you want. When you're hammering out the folds, you need to be able to follow the angle that the sides are set at. So if your sides are too flat, when you try to hammer in the folds, you're not going to be able to upset the metal into the sides. Here I'm spending a fair amount of time defining where the base meets the side walls. These folds are very easy to hammer out at this point because they're locked in place by the base. So if you get that ring very solidly anchored, the rest just seems to fall into place. And then I'll carefully hammer the top ridge of that fold to compress it into the sides. At this point I'm going to take the time to anneal the piece, redefine the folds, and then I'll make a second pass. And now that the metal is soft again, I'll be able to continue the process of hammering the ridge of the fold into the sides. Just continue the process, work until you feel that the metal is giving you some resistance, and then anneal it and continue the process. Again, it takes a long time. At this point I need to start working the top edge of the bowl. So I need to insert extra folds in between the large folds that I originally hammered in. This will give me more area to compress. Now that I have these new folds locked in, I just continue the process. I start working at the base, working my way up to the top edge, compressing as I go. When I feel some resistance, I anneal the piece, and then continue the same process over and over and over again. At this point, for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm just going to be concentrating on one side of this bowl. I just want to show you the contrast between the roughly shaped finished side. It still isn't complete by any means. There's still a lot of hammering that needs to be done. But you can see the angles are the same, even though the unfinished side has still a lot of folds, whereas the finished side is compressed and is the same angle. And of course this process is the same, it just keeps repeating itself. So if I wanted a shape that had vertical sides, for example, it would just be more of the same. Create more folds, compress those folds, hammer everything smooth, create more folds, compress those folds into the sides until you got the shape that you want. So here's where I am after about an hour of hammering, and I'm estimating that there's at least another hour of hammering just to get the shape hammered out and smooth to the point where I have it right now.